Thank you, Kale, and I would like to welcome all of you to my capstone presentation and the rest of the capstones that have happened today. For the past 21 years, my family and I have moved 7 times. My dad has been deployed 4 times, and I have been to 7 different schools. I am a military brat. Throughout my life, I have seen friends come and go. I have watched my dad leave and stay gone for a year. And even though I had my family, it was hard not to feel alone. So for my capstone, I created media resources for children in military families. For my capstone, I prepared 6 deliverables. My first deliverable is a research paper about the resources that are currently available to military brats. My second deliverable is a blog where brats can go online and read and post stories about their own experiences. My third deliverable are 2 5-minute radio segments with 2 military families. My fourth deliverable is a promotional plan to properly advertise my resources. My fifth deliverable is a magazine with stories, advice, and craft ideas. And my fifth deliverable is a website. There's a combination of all the different aspects of my capstone. For my capstone, I use 5 technologies. I use SoundForge for editing my radio segments and my radio advertisements. I use Microsoft Excel for creating spreadsheets for my promotional plan. I use Adobe InDesign for creating my magazine and my print advertisements. I use Adobe Photoshop for editing the photos throughout my capstone. And I use Macromedia Dreamweaver for creating my website. My first deliverable was a research paper. The topic of my research paper is resources available to children in the military. What I found through most of my research is that a lot of the resources available are targeted towards the parents and the schools and not so much towards the children. There are a few places to get the information and resources that are available. They can get it on the web, through media resources, and through non-media resources. On the web, for example, there is a website called Military One Source. This site is for parents, and it gives them tips on transitioning through military situations such as deployments, changing schools, and moving with their kids. But there are a few sources online that are for children. An example of this is Army FRG. An FRG is a family readiness group, and they are a group of people who stay behind to help families when loved ones are deployed. This website is separated into 3 sections: Army FRG Kids, Army FRG Tweens, and Army FRG Teens. The site includes games, activities, journals, and volunteer opportunities for the different age groups. What I found through most of my research is that there are very few media resources available. Media resources include things like newspapers, magazines, television stations, radio stations, films, blogs, and the list goes on. The Military Child Education Coalition, however, does produce 2 magazines. They produce a magazine called On the Move, which is targeted towards the parents, and they also produce a magazine called Working with Military Children, which is targeted towards the schools. There are many resources that are not available through media or on the web. These include things like camps, programs, clubs, and teacher training. The organizations Operation Military Kids and the National Family Military Association do a lot of these things throughout the year for military brats all over the United States. An example up here in Northeast Georgia is Operation Purple, which is done by National Military Family Association. It is a camp that's provided just for military brats, and most of the time, these programs are free. I had the opportunity to meet with Casey Mull from Operation Military Kids in Georgia when I first started out my project. He told me in our meeting that the biggest problem is getting military families and the children aware of the products that are available. This is why, in my capstone, I create a promotional plan to advertise my products. I also feel that efforts can be improved by having more resources that are directed more towards the children and not just towards the parents in schools. deliverable, I created a blog. The purpose of the blog I created is for military brats to read through stories, post their own stories, and relate to military brats all over the world. The writers for the blog right now are current friends of mine that are former or current military brats. Right now there are 10 posts, and a majority of the posts are from students that are former military brats, but they are mostly of the college age or recent grads. But I do have a recent post from Caleb's mother, Cheryl, who was a military brat growing up, and I really appreciate her posting on my blog. I would also like to have more age groups on my blog for younger people, but Casey Moll told me that that probably wasn't going to happen because parents are always concerned about safety of children on the internet. On the website, I also created a Twitter, which is simply a status update. On this Twitter, I post what is going on around the world for or about military brats. I find stories online, and I simply just write a small blurb, and when I update it on Twitter, it posts directly to my website. There are 2 ways to access the blog. The first way is to go to www.militarybrats-sandy.blogspot.com, but that's a mouthful. So the best way to access the blog, I believe, is to go to my website that I've created and to link directly from there. My third deliverable are 2 5-minute radio segments with military families. Linda Pitts put me in contact with the families, and she is here in the audience with us. She works here at Piedmont College, and she is also the founder of a group here at Piedmont called Patriots of Piedmont. The first family I interviewed was the Morales family, and they are stationed at Fort Gordon, Georgia. Margie and Carlos have 3 children, Roxette, who is 19 and attends Augusta State University, Katerina, who is 10, and John Carlos, who is 8. For this segment, I spoke with the parents and Katerina, and here is a 40-second preview of that segment. Welcome to Military Talk. This week's show is with the Morales family from Fort Gordon, Georgia. Carlos has been deployed 1 time to Iraq. He shares the hardest part about being deployed.
Leaving the family behind, especially the children, and also to see the soldiers and their spouses go through the same thing that you do.
Katerina said she had a very difficult time when he left. She says her life completely changed.
I've always been Daddy's girl, so it was a little hard because the longest I've been away from him was probably 8 days.
My second segment was with the Kessler family. When I conducted the interview, they were stationed at Fort Gordon, but since then and now, they are now stationed in Alaska. Esther and Joshua have 3 children, Savannah, who is 8, Jake, who is 6, and Cadence, who is 2. For this segment, I spoke with the parents and Savannah. Here's a 30-second preview of that segment. Welcome to this week's Military Talk Show with the Kessler family. They are currently stationed at Fort Gordon, Georgia. Joseph and Esther have to help their children through military situations a little differently.
This past deployment, he went to Build-A-Bear and recorded a message on a teddy bear for all 3 of the kids. And they each had their own message on a teddy bear.
Their 8-year-old Savannah tries her best to make the best of the situation.
I try to play with my friends, help my mom out by cleaning up. It goes from happy to sad because my dad's gone. And when he comes back, it's happy again.
For my 4th deliverable, I created a promotional plan. The promotional plan is separated into 4 parts. The first part is the advertising media. This is all the possible places that I want to advertise my products. I decided to advertise in 4 media: newspapers, magazines, radio, and on the web. In this section, I compared 3 advertising venues that I want to advertise, that I could potentially advertise my products in, except for radio, in which I only did 1. The reason I only did 1 is because there's only 1 military public radio station, and children's radio stations don't normally accept advertising. The next part of my implementation of my promotional plan was a financial plan, where I wrote about all the expenses of my products, including the web domain and the cost of